Welcome to Minnesota Housing's 2018 Underwriting Standards tutorial. This tutorial will cover changes being made to Minnesota Housing's underwriting standards. There are 4 key areas that are being addressed at this time: guarantee requirements, privately funded rental assistance, valuation methodology for tax increment financing, or TIF, and finally, relocation plan principles that have been incorporated. After making several significant changes to the multifamily underwriting standards in 2017, which were largely related to underwriting our first mortgage products, our efforts in 2018 are focused more toward making the underwriting standards in terms clearer and easier to understand. The guarantee section has been revised to provide clarification and additional guidance around our guarantee requirements. We added definitions as well as included a table that more clearly identifies when each type of guarantee is applicable. As Minnesota Housing funds more and larger deferred loans that remain in first lien position, more often than not, we will require construction completion guarantees and repayment guarantees for such loans. As we encountered proposals that committed to providing project-based rental assistance from a privately funded source, the underwriting standards were revised to include a summary of additional documentation that will be needed to allow us to assess the proposed assistance, as well as to ensure the ability to meet the financial pledge. Additional documentation includes an explanation of how assistance was calculated and how it will be administered, a board resolution that commits and restricts the full amount of the assistance pledged for the term of the assistance, and evidence of the financial ability to meet the pledge. Please note that evidence will also be required prior to final Mortgage Credit Committee approval and closing. For amortizing first mortgage loans provided by Minnesota Housing that are sized to include proceeds from tax increment financing, or TIF, the method of valuing those TIF proceeds for purposes of sizing the first mortgage will be based on the present value of the remaining TIF increments, as determined by third-party documentation. Chapter 10 of the Underwriting Standards has been expanded to address not only the prohibition on involuntary displacement, but it also now addresses relocation plans. This chapter provides principles that must be incorporated into relocation plans for permanent, temporary, and in-place displacement scenarios. If a development involves permanent and/or temporary displacement of existing tenants, the developer must submit a relocation plan or plans that address the applicable displacement scenario or scenarios. In other words, depending on circumstances, a developer might need to submit relocation plans for any or all of the following: permanent displacement, temporary displacement, and/or in-place displacement. For Minnesota Housing purposes, in-place displacement is when a tenant will need to be moved from a unit for a short period of time, resulting in a tenant's loss of use of their unit for a portion of the day. Minnesota Housing's underwriting standards reflect the agency's general approach to underwriting, but the standards are not meant to be comprehensive, nor are they meant to address every possible situation. The multifamily underwriting standards are always current as of the date on the cover page of the document. Please note that the standards are subject to being revised at the discretion of Minnesota Housing as needed and at any time. If you have questions as to how the standards apply to a particular project, please consult with Minnesota Housing staff early in the development process. For more information about the underwriting process or our underwriting standards, please contact Susan Thompson or visit our website at www.mnhousing.gov. Thank you for taking the time to view this tutorial and for all you do to provide affordable housing in Minnesota.